What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the E4 Explicit podcast. Today, I have a special guest, Survivor Kevin Berthia. This guy, Kevin, is the guy in the picture on the other side of the railing, standing 220 feet above the San Francisco Bay, trying to commit suicide and jump over the Golden Gate Bridge. His story is incredible, and now he goes around the world talking and listening to people who have survived suicides, families of people who have committed suicide, and just playing his part and being a positive influence in people's lives. His journey through 22 suicide attempts, 8 after the jump at the Golden Gate Bridge, which blew my mind. But he tells me a story about him in New York that you're gonna have to listen or watch, and it's fascinating. It got me really emotional because he's such a genuine person. So please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell notification so you get notified every single time I come on camera or on your podcast, wherever you're listening or watching. I really appreciate it. All his links and my links will be in the description below as usual, as well as the suicide prevention hotline. So enjoy this episode of the E4 Explicit podcast with Survivor Kevin Berthia. We'll see you next time. Peace out. What's up, guys? Today's episode of the E4 Explicit podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. They're the best in men's below the waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer. This guy, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right. The Lawnmower 4.0. It's got a flashlight. So join over 2 million men worldwide just like me that trust Manscaped and get an exclusive offer just for you. You're going to get 20% off plus worldwide free shipping. Use the code explicit20 at manscaped.com. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the E4 Explicit podcast. And today we have a very special guest, Kevin Berthia, who is a survivor first, suicide prevention advocate. He goes around the country talking to people, not even talking to people. I feel like listening to people, and we'll talk about listening because that's a big part of it. But Kevin, welcome to the podcast. I appreciate you coming on. This is a very, very important episode to a lot of people listening and watching, to me as well. I'm a big advocate of therapy and listening and all of those great things, specifically for men too, because it's definitely kind of like not really a talked about thing, right? It's kind of like a taboo almost. But if you could just kind of intro yourself real quick, who you are, and a little bit of synopsis of what your life has been about.
Cool. My name is Kevin Berthia. I'm a suicide prevention survivor, advocate, and national speaker. I got into the mental health world 2013. Before that, I was battling diagnosed, but not understanding of really just dealing with the fact that I had an issue, kind of denying it and denying it. Come from a society and an environmental background where, we didn't talk about it at all. And being not only am I African-American, I'm Black. I'm African-American man. So that makes it's a double whammy. So whereas we didn't talk about it at all. So just got into the mental health field, and I just, try to give back and do my little part. So I get an opportunity to travel around the world, and I get to, like you say, I get to listen to people's stories after they hear mine. It sparks something inside of them where they, feel like, the understanding enough to open it up and tell me their story. So, and that's what it's all about. We all have a story. I'm no different than anybody else in this world.
Right, man. Yeah. And if you don't know, or if you haven't seen it, all you have to do is Google this man's name, and an extremely famous photo will pop up 100% on Google Images. I can't even explain it, honestly. So you listening and people watching, I might flash it up here on the screen, but that alone, like it says thousands of words. It's just a crazy photo, and we'll talk about it in a bit. But if we can, in 2005, you went to the Golden Gate Bridge. You were going to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. But before we get into all of that stuff, can you kind of tell me how what led up to that point? I don't mean in the car and all that. I mean, like before that, stuff you were dealing with. You mentioned being an African-American male, That's a double whammy for sure. Statistically too, for sure. It's not talked about typically. And I don't know, how old are you? You were 22 when this
I was
happened, right?
22 at the time. Yep.
How old are you now?
I am 39.
39. Okay, I'm 30. I'm about to be 34. And none of that stuff was talked about when I was growing up. So I know it wasn't talked about when you were growing up. So it's like, it's just crazy, man. Like it's unfortunate. I'm glad a lot of this stuff is being talked about now, but sorry, that was a little tangent. Can you kind of go back what led up to the point of you getting in that car and driving to that Golden Gate Bridge?
Absolutely. I knew as early as 5 years old that I had an issue. So always tell people, talk to your loved ones, talk to to the little ones, and check in with them a lot better, because I knew early in life I had an issue. By the time I got to that point of breaking point of where I lost all hope, that was 22 years of me bottling in all these different emotions, 22 years of me not dealing with anything that I should have dealt with, not processing anything. And just literally, when things happen in my life, no matter how it made me feel, I never wanted to show people how it damaged me on the inside. So I always put on this front. And I did that for years. And I got to a point where, that morning I woke up and everything that I didn't deal with, which was everything, it was in front of my face. It was just like I couldn't handle myself. It was like the equivalent of a semi truck being parked on your chest.
Wow.
And it was a type of pain that I had to get myself out of it. I didn't see it. I didn't see another day of a whole, of thinking that things are going to get better, or, knowing that people love me. I just needed to get out of the pain that I was in because I was suffocating.
Right. So how was it, you just not, like, you didn't feel comfortable talking to your loved ones? You didn't even know how to start that conversation? Like, obviously in hindsight,
My situation is a little different because,
okay.
I grew I was adopted,
Okay.
so that is a big part of who I am even to this day. So it was a little different for me because I knew I was a smart kid. So I didn't understand. I just never could understand the idea of how somebody could give birth to me and give me up, and I'm just not good enough. So, but then I didn't understand the idea of, once I got a family, I was smart enough to know that I had a family, and there was other kids that didn't have families. And my mom always told me to compare my problems to that problems of the world. So I never looked at it as like a problem, even though I hated the idea that, this wasn't my family. I didn't look like anybody. I wanted to know where my family can come from. I wanted to know where I belong, who do I look like. And so it was always harder for me to talk about these things. And then you come from a predominantly African American community who, I was 19 before I heard the word mental health for the first time: depression, suicide. I mean, so I went my whole childhood struggling with internal issues that I never even knew that the world was other kids in the world were struggling with, other adults, other people in the world were struggling with.
Right.
And so it was different for me to try to reach out because I felt so alone. I'm alone feeling adopted. I'm alone feeling like I'm the only person in the world that's feeling the way I feel, because I don't have anybody else saying that they're dealing with these issues. I'm not around a man. I think I was 14 years old, was the 14 or 15 was the first time I saw a man cry.
Wow.
Like, because that's just the type of, you don't, it wasn't in an environment, like, it wasn't like that. It just wasn't like that. It just, men are always told to keep our emotions in check, and that's all I saw. So
Right.
I was always taught I had to keep my emotions in check no matter how I felt.
Right. Yeah. Why do you think that is? I mean, like it's almost like the, like, suck it up type thing. Oh,
Society, we're not allowed to be human. We've been taught to not be human because we've been taught to not show emotion, but emotion is a sign of being human. So we've been designed our whole lives not to be human, not to show vulnerability, not to show sensitivity, not to show, emotions. And those are the blankets of who makes who we are. Like, who makes us human, is because we have these emotions, because we have this, capabilities. Animals don't have the same capabilities as humans. Like, so they can be, show this, idea of strength and not show emotions, like a lion, like, or something, because they're not built with the same compassion and understanding that we are built with. It's not built with the same brain, but because we're human, we're forced to have animal-like instincts, but we're human, got human components. So it's always confusion to a brain that's trying to dictate, well, I want to cry right now, but we're telling ourselves, no, we're not supposed to cry because that'll make me look weak. But it's an emotion. So it's just everything. And it just confuses our brain and then we get overwhelmed.
Right. That's a great point. That makes a lot of sense because it's so like they're so primal. They can't think like that anyways. Why
they don't need to. They don't need
exactly.
to. Yeah. They hunt, they sleep. That's it. They don't need, we have to interact and do so many different things. Right. But we want to have this mindset that, that all we have to do is hunt and sleep. Like, no, we have to engage and have conversations and be providers and be protectors and be all these different emotional things that come with, because if we don't do these things emotionally, we let somebody down, but we can't be emotional while we're dealing with them. That doesn't make, just doesn't make any sense.
Right. No, you're right. 100%. And I think, do you think a lot of what comes with that is communication, right? For example, I have up until the last probably 5 years since I've been with my fiance, I've been a terrible communicator. My parents split up when I was 5 years old. Didn't really have that kind of relationship with my dad. So I grew up with my mom. My mom was very much harbored everything inside. That generation just didn't deal with shit. My dad also did the same thing, but he was a better communicator, but I wasn't around him. So I didn't pick that stuff up. So it wasn't until like the last 5 years that I've been with my fiance where it's like, no, these things are important. She's a great communicator. She's been working on herself and everything like that. I've gone to therapy and all that stuff and learned things about myself that I didn't even know. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying that because communication, I think, like, is so important. I mean,
it's the number one thing that binds the world. It's the one thing that we lack. And it's the one thing that's going to bring us back together.
Right.
It's the one thing that tears us apart. The one thing that's going to bring it the same. It's funny that ironically how the world is, that's how it is designed. Like every problem that there is in the world is because there's either a lack of communication on somebody's part. That's just how it is.
Right.
You got a world full of humans trying to figure out who they are. There's going to be some lines of wrong communication somewhere, but we don't look at it. We hold people accountable and hold each other to a fault and not realizing that we all trying to figure it all out.
Right. That's it right there. What you just said. We're all trying to figure it out. It's not, nobody has all the answers, not one right way or wrong way to do something. And let me ask you this. Do you think that, because I personally think with I'm in marketing. So I do marketing and social media for a job. I know how powerful it is. I know how fucked up it is. So it's funny because it's like there was basically no social media back then, also barely no communication. Now there's like over social media, over communication and a part on social media. It's a different kind of communication. Dude, would you say that there's definitely a lot more awareness with suicide and all that stuff now than there was? But like, can you kind of like give me your thoughts on like what social media has either done or hasn't done for this new generation?
See, it's hard because it's hard not to be in the middle of it because before social media, a child that was dealing with something and reached out and said, can say I'm suicidal, and people can reach out, and say, I'm thinking about killing myself, and people know.
Right. But
because of social media, that individual is probably saying, I want to kill myself because of social. Right. So it's like, it's this real area of understanding that, yes, it's a good thing, and we have to embrace it. That's the thing. Like, it's hard to say something is bad when we have to embrace it.
Right.
And that's why a lot of things I don't really have opinions about a lot of things, especially when we have to embrace them. Like when we have to, this is what it is.
Right.
Like it's not going, like a lot of things in life, the problem is a lot of people have a problem with it, but when we stay on the fence about it, it's like you can have a problem with it. You can disagree, agree, or whatever, but certain things are just inevitable. Social media, it's going to get bigger and better each and every minute as we go on. So we have to maximize what we do with it and try to do as best as we can with it. It's going to be good. It's going to be bad and good and everything.
Right.
That's just life.
Right.
So I think that it does do more good than bad. ironically, because I've been able to do a lot of research lately, and it's just, I mean, the level of communication that people can have now, they don't have. And yes, people are exposed to so many different things, and I can hear all the everything you can say bad about it, but I'm just saying the ability for people to access. I'm saying for me personally in my life and what I do.
Right.
Like, when somebody from Ghana can reach out to me,
right?
How are they going to do that without social media?
Exactly. Me too. I just reached out to you. How else would I got a hold of you?
How am I going to be? How can I reach the people without it?
Right.
And I used to be, I didn't have social media before we became a speaker, because I didn't even, it wasn't a big deal. I was under a rock for many years, but now I have to be where the people at. And now I've had to understand that this is where the people are at. This is where they're at. Like, there's no way of getting around it. So it's like, okay, well, let's just figure out how to meet them where they're at. And that's the problem. We got to start meeting. We just got to meet the world where it is. We got to meet generations where they're at. We got to meet the young people. If they are whatever they're in, we just got to meet them where they're at and give them fine-tune suicide prevention to modify it so that it reaches them on a level where they can accept it. And it's not harsh on them. Like, it's a way to, fine tune every generation. Like, my son who's 8, I know how to reach him. He's into Fortnite and all that generation's into video games and gaming. So create a game that talks about their feelings.
Right.
Like, implement feelings in Fortnite. Like, I guarantee you, if they talk about everything they talk about in Fortnite, he comes on and he says, oh yeah, they just put this in Fortnite. They just did this in Fortnite. Mm-hmm. Just incorporate it and just say, you have a version or something where you just say, talk about feelings or something. Kids are not going to think it's stupid. They're going to think it's, the next thing.
Right. Exactly. Because that's what they're doing. Yeah. They're like used to it. Yeah. That's so true.
It's just all about meeting people where they at. We just got to, technology, social media is like, I'm telling, like, my picture would have never, I know my picture has probably been seen by 500 million people.
Right. And it wouldn't have without social media.
Like, I know it's been seen since it's been out.
Right.
By 500 million people.
That's so crazy.
How in the world is it possible? Like,
Yep.
That's just how it is. Like, I know that's just what it is. Like, and it's just keeps circulating. This story grows. Every 5 minutes, somebody tags me in a new post and it's somewhere else, and there's another, million some people see it, or another million here, so that's just one of those things. So I praise social media, for the connections that we can make on it, and I know it has its bad things, of course.
Yeah, right. Oh, definitely. Yeah, but I love that mindset of like embracing it and like meeting it where it's at, because like you said, it ain't going nowhere. It's only going to get bigger. And if you can steer that boat to a positive direction, even more positive. I mean, Facebook and all that stuff, so it's very political, it's very 50-50 and all that. But like, if you're constantly engaging in that negativity, that's the algorithm, everybody. Just so you know, if you're clicking on negative, all you're going to see is negative. So understand that, and then maybe your timeline will look a lot more positive.
And that's what it is. It's a computer. You like, as soon as you like something that's derogatory, you're going to get a floodgate of stuff that's derogatory, because that's what it feeds on their smartphones. Like, that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to tune in to your whatever your genre thinking in that moment or moving forward. They're trying to lock you in. So it's advertisement. And people don't realize all this stuff is advertisement. Facebook is just advertisement. So it's trying to sell you, it's trying to get you involved and get you engaged in whatever they're selling. News is selling. That's sales. Like, it's not.
And bad news always is sold.
Bad news always sells. Always. Because half the world, if not more than half the world, is in a bad place.
Right.
That's why bad news, people are attracted to they're internally, they're dealing with so many things, and externally when they see it, they don't even realize it's just all it is a mirror. That's all it is. And we don't look at it like that. That's why we're able to tune into stuff and take in these stuff. And that's why the news is what it is. And so this powerful tool is because the news people are in bad places when they're reporting about, it's just like, that's just how it is. That's the reality. That's my reality of it. There's no way of explaining it, because all news could be good news. It could be.
Right.
Like, there's no, but it's not gonna, they're gonna lose ratings.
It's not gonna sell. Exactly. I mean, think about like growing up too. It's like even though like live news, like when you had like the three channels, like the big three or whatever, it was like, I mean, it was murder here, homicide there, this, that, it wasn't like, oh, a puppy had babies or a dog had
Yeah,
puppies. It wasn't like all fucking happy shit. It was like
yeah,
super depressing, make everybody
yeah.
else, but that sells, sex sells, violence sells, all that stuff
That's
sells.
how it
And
is.
that's just how it
Everything
is.
that's of the world is gonna always, anything that's gonna claim you and keep you in this world and
Right.
in this bubble of confusion is gonna always sell. Like
Right.
it's like a globe and you just running around it.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it. Man, all right. So, all right, let's talk about you for a minute. So, you're dealing with a lot of things. You never talked about it. You're 22 years old. Tell me that day when you were 22. What was it?
Woke up like about 4:30 something in the morning, and I just, dude, I was out of it. Like
Really?
completely, I was done. And I knew I was done because I never felt like this. Because up to that point, I've always been my own motivational speaker. Like, all right, man, come on,
You got
let's put
this.
it together.
Yeah.
We got this. Come on, all right, let's get through another day. Like, I just didn't have it. I didn't hear that voice. I didn't hear the pep talk. And it was just overwhelming. And I couldn't get out of that funk. And I finally got up and, I just got in my car and I started driving. I couldn't think of nothing. And I literally drove to a gas station, parked there for a minute because, I was trying to figure out how much money I wanted to put in because, I was broke, didn't have no job. I had so many other things going on. I think I had like maybe $14-15 at the time. So I'm thinking like, how much money I'm about to put on the gas. And for something else, and I kept thinking to myself, I don't want to spend all my money in the gas. Like I'm gonna need at least, a couple dollars. I didn't even know what I needed the couple dollars for, but I was like, I don't want to spend all my money in gas. So I've got, however much money on gas. And I remember pumping my gas as my pump clicked, is done. My brain clicked as it clicked. It's like they both clicked. And then my brain clicked and said Golden Gate Bridge. Just like that.
Wow.
Because I never knew about the Golden Gate Bridge. I'm from Oakland, California. I knew about the Bay Bridge. I've been over it a couple times, but people from Oakland, we stay in Oakland. We don't go over to San Francisco. It wasn't a big deal. So I didn't even know the Golden Gate Bridge. I didn't know where it was at. I didn't know where, that it even was iconic for suicide attempts. You got to realize this is March 05. Google's not out yet.
Right.
YouTube's not out. All these search engines, all this stuff. So we don't have, so I don't know that this is this iconic place that, hundreds, if not thousands of people have, went to decided or jumped off. Like I'm not knowing any of these things in this day. Like,
Right.
it's in that moment, spur of the moment. I'm thinking Golden Gate Bridge. So I didn't even know how to find it. So I was banking on, asking for directions. I was thinking whoever I asked, maybe they'll look at me. I look like a young man, from the Bay Area. Why do you want to go to the bridge? I was banking on them asking me, but
Wow.
I got to the Bay Bridge and they never, she kind of looked at me, gave me a little weird look, really kind of didn't look at me at all and gave me directions and I kind of sent me on my way. And I knew I was, on my way. I knew I was, gave me directions and I got lost, of course, because she told me to follow a couple signs. So now I'm overwhelmed. Told me it take 20 something minutes to get there. I'm an hour and 15 minutes in this thing, almost hour and 20, lost. Finally get out there, park my car. It was a park right in front. Now I've been to the bridge several times since then. And I'm like, I don't know how this park was right there in the front because there's never any parks out there like that. But this park was right there. I left my keys in ignition. I grabbed my prepaid phone and I started walking. And I got out there and I was just trying to find one reason not to jump. I walked for about 10, 15 minutes, which seemed like, 5 hours to me,
Right.
but I couldn't find anything. I remember making one phone call, can't remember how the conversation went. And, that's when I, looked over the railing and I saw that it was nothing going to deter me. And I looked in that water and it was the first time that I saw peace,
Wow.
and that water was the first time I saw myself not having to be a burden. I saw that, the world would be such a better place. I had felt it being a father. I had felt it being a son. I had felt it being, a friend. At every aspect of my life, I had failed at. And I was tired of waking up every morning living this lie. I was tired of trying to, be this person that I wasn't. I was trying to be in this chameleon. I was tired of saying everything that needed to be said to please everybody in front of me so that nobody ever knew that I was in this horrible, dark place. I was tired of, lying about my suicide attempts that nobody else knew about. I was tired of cutting. I was tired of, all these different things I was tired of. I hated everything about myself. and I knew I had to get myself out of pain. And I took a couple steps back and I braced myself for impact. And I literally, when people say, you almost jumped off the bridge, no, I have to tell people I jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. Like it's not a almost. I took a couple steps back and I jumped over the railing. And the only thing that stopped me was the voice of my first responder, Sergeant Briggs. But I didn't even know. I never knew he was my first responder. I never knew he was a cop. I don't even know what he said. He doesn't even know what he said, but it was enough to get me in a distraction. And I tell people all the time, the only thing that saved me was that voice that was distraction, and the fact that I am an athletic guy. The fact that I was literally dunking a basketball since the 9th grade. Wow. And that's the only thing that saved me is I literally jumped as I'm midair in the air over the railing. I jumped and turned around and grabbed the railing with my left arm and slammed my body slammed into the railing. And I got on this 4-inch cord from that's underneath the railing that you can't even see from the top. But from the top, it looks like I'm gone. He didn't even know I was gone until I think he got close enough to see that my white t-shirt through the railings. He was able to see my white t-shirt, because from the top, you can't even see. He thought I was gone. He thought that was it. Because I literally, took a couple steps back and jumped. And he saw me jump. And that's why I say, when we travel and we be able to tell this story together, you're able to hear both sides of the story, because you literally hear that I jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. Wow. And now I'm mad though, because I put myself in a position that I didn't come here to talk. I didn't come here to put myself in this position. I've exceeded all time of that I was coming here to talk. I got t-shirt on in the shorts. I put myself in probably the worst situation in my life now, because now I'm 220 feet in the air. It's March, San Francisco. It's 39-degree wind chill. I'm freezing cold. And then his voice that distracted me from getting to my destiny is still trying to get my attention. And so I'm yelling at him, and we go back and forth for about 10 minutes. I'm yelling at him. And stay back, because all I got at this point, I got to do is nudge and I'm done. Like, all I got to do is do like a small little lean back, and that's it. I don't have anything supporting me. I'm not holding on to any railings or anything. It's no ropes or any, thing holding me up. Literally, it's the wind supporting my back against the railing. And, I could feel the wind pushing up against me because I'm 220 feet in the air, and it's real windy. So that goes on for about 10 minutes. Then finally, something on the inside of me says, why do you even care? Just like that, on the inside of me. Because it wasn't like he never made me feel like I was a 22-year-old deranged black man from Oakland, California, on the other side of a railing. When he spoke to me as if we were our two friends that he's known me my whole life. So finally, on the inside of me, something said, well, why do you even care? And I was able to allow him to get close enough, and I kept my head down. I kept my eyes closed. And for the next 96 minutes, or the next 92 minutes, we literally had one of the greatest conversations of my life. And he learned about everything that I wanted to tell my adoptive mom, everything I want to tell my adoptive dad, everything I want to tell my biological mom, my biological dad, everything I've been wanting to tell coaches, family, friends, everything that I hid from the world, everything that I've been wanting to scream to the world about who I was and about the things I went through. He learned in those 92 minutes. And he just literally sat there and listened. He never interrupted me. He made me feel like if I had to talk for 10 days, he would have sat there and listened. It wasn't about the traffic at a standstill. It wasn't about the thousands of people that were looking. It wasn't about anything. It was about me and him. And I tell people all the time, like, my head stayed down, my eyes stayed closed. I never knew he was, one, a cop, two, white, because those two differences would have changed the conversation. Because I come at the time at 22, I come from Oakland, California. I never had a good run-in with law enforcement up until that point.
Right.
So if I would have opened my eyes and saw that he was white and a cop, I would have instantly I would have let go. Right. I wouldn't even hold on, but I know I would have nudged back because it would have been no point.
Imagine shaving with a sleek, well-designed, optimized trimmer that makes shaving time your favorite time. I'm one of the first people to use the Lawnmower 4.0 for Manscaped, and let me tell you, the craftsmanship on this goddamn thing is insane. It will chip away at all that down there. Trust me. I'm talking from personal experience. I use the lawnmower get a little trim, and then I follow up with the ball deodorant. Let me tell you, if you like to go on hikes, if you like to just go outside and it's sweaty or it's hot out, Swamp Ass is non-existent. I could not go anywhere without the ball deodorant. I travel everywhere with it. It is a lifesaver, trust me. Manscaped engineered the ultimate groin and body trimmer by focusing on intelligent functionality and a grooming experience you'll never forget. The 4th generation trimmer also features a ceramic blade to reduce the risk of accidents. And thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology, I feel way more comfortable shaving my boys. The upgraded trimmer also includes an on and off switch that can engage a travel lock. It also gives you the ability to turn on and off the 4000K LED light so you can get a more precise shave. The Lawnmower 4.0 even allows you to cut through that hedge with more guard lengths with sizes 1 through 4. Oh yeah, hey, did I mention wireless charging? That's fucking crazy. The new wireless charging system uses electromagnetic induction, which allows the battery to last way longer than it used to. Man, listen up. If you've been using the same nut trimmer on your face, you've been doing it all wrong. I don't know about you, but I don't want to end up with pubes in my mouth. It's time to get your own ball hair and body trimmer with Manscaped and make me time the best time. And trust me, you'll enhance your confidence if you got some nice smooth boys down there. Get 20% off plus free shipping when you use the code Explicit20 at manscaped.com. Trust me, your balls will thank you.
Wow. So my eyes stay closed, head stay down. Never knew he was white, never knew he was cop, never knew anything about him. That's why I tell people all the time, it has nothing to do with color. It has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with compassion, empathy. The reason I'm here today is because of 2 ears and 1 heart. That's what saved me. It's something that we all possess. You know, it's the human element that we are. Every human is born with a certain level of compassion, a certain level of hope, a certain level of empathy. It's the world, it's our environment that changes that changes that. Like, I don't like people. Like, you know, we're not born a certain way. We become a certain way based on how we're raised, based on the situations that we are. Nobody's the way they are because of they just the way they are. People that are afraid of heights, something psychologically happened and made them that way. People that are afraid of the dark, something psychologically happened and made them afraid of the dark. We have to give up on the idea that people are the way they are because that's just the way they are, because that's the absolute false. We have to create a narrative and deal with the why. Until we deal with the why in our society, we will continue to deal with the what, and the what will be continue to have losing lives until we deal with the why. We have to pull back the layers. We have to. In that day, I was able to pull back my layers, and that's why I'm heard. That's why I'm here. I'm here because I was heard. People get healed the moment they get heard, and I got heard for the first time. So that started my healing process that day without me even knowing it.
Wow. Holy shit. That's fucking, oh my God. Sorry. Man, so much from that. Okay, so he's listening to you for 92 minutes. You don't know he's white, you don't know he's a cop, you don't know who he is, you don't know that he's like, that's like his thing, actually. You know, not to spend 92 minutes, but like, you were just talking. What were you? What specifically?
Everything. I started at the age of 5, and I worked myself up all the way. I told him my whole life, everything that was hurting me, everything that hurt me, literally the same. And it's ironic that when I go out and speak now, you know how long I speak for?
92 minutes.
92 minutes. I do 90 minutes. And then I do a Q&A. I do like I speak, and then in between the speaking and Q&A, it normally averages out to 90. I tell my life story in 92 minutes.
Wow. Because you did it on the bridge that day.
Because I did it on the bridge, and I started at the age of 5, and I worked myself up all the way, you know, whatever a current day is. And, you know, I just take you on the journey with me.
Wow.
You know, because 5 to 13 is one part of my life. 13 to 19 is one part of my life. 19 to 22 is one part. Then 22 to 30 is one part. 30 to 39 is a whole nother part.
Wow.
That's how my life basically breaks down. It's birth to 5, 5 to 13, 13 to 19, 19 to 22, 22 to 30, 30 to 39. That's how my life like, and I can know, and I can go back and know every single moment, like this is what changed and shaped this.
Right. Like what shifted and
Yep. I can go back to
Wow.
it and be like, oh, that's what happened. And that
Right.
shifted everything. And see,
Right.
so, and that's just how life is. So now I help people with that. I help people see their shift. I help people see their root, because I always tell people everybody has a root. The problem we deal with, when you think about a tree has just one big root and many branches. In life, we deal with the branches and never take care of the root. Right. So we go through life not really dealing with our real problems. Like the real problem doesn't really get, the elephant in the room gets overlooked. And we handle all the small chatter, but this big problem we don't want to deal with, because I think that's the biggest thing. Oh, I can't deal with it. I don't want to face that. It's too many things I had to handle my root,
Wow. And you did it on 220 feet on the Golden Gate Bridge.
I had to literally let it all go. And it took a lot. But like that's one part of the story, like I literally, I got all that out, but I still had to make a decision. Made a decision. I came back. I got taken to a psychiatric hospital for 14 days. And you think that, I'm on my way of transition and on my way of recovery. And that's not the case. I got home, found out that this photo was front page of the San Francisco Chronicle. Mm-hmm. And this huge photo now, because you got to realize something. The same time that I was on the bridge, ironically, the same time I was on the bridge is the same time they were in a room to decide whether or not to put a barrier up for the bridge. They were having a meeting at the same time.
What?
At the same time, they were having a meeting. They were having a meeting, like, and it was like, they're talking about the bridge, and it's just like, well, somebody's on the bridge right now. Why they're talking about if a barrier should go up. So
where you were.
Exactly.
Right.
Like it's like, it's just it never was a barrier up, and it's just they were talks about it for a long time. And I'm not saying, my story had a lot to do with it, but that being that I'm on the bridge the same time that they're talking about, I think it helped out the process of understanding that we need to put this barrier up.
Right. That's great. When you're on that thing, I didn't know this. What you just said. I didn't know that. I thought you were holding on to a railing. No. I didn't know that you were just using the wind.
Both arm. One arm is underneath like this, and the other arm is literally, my right arm is down, like literally on my side, and my left arm is underneath my because it's freezing. So I'm just like this. And the only thing that's supporting me, I'm like 100 and probably 35 pounds. So the wind is kind of, up against my back and just kind of just keeping me there as I'm talking, because once I started talking, I don't care that I'm on a ledge. You see what I'm talking? I'm not holding on. Like I'm just talking, like I'm talking now freely. Right. Like I talk freely. I don't have time to worry about how my feet are positioning.
Right.
I understand for 92 minutes, I stayed in that same position talking. Like, and it's just, it is, I don't make a miracle of my story. It is a miracle. Like, I don't like, oh no, the more, every time I talk about it, I think about it and be like, yeah, that is kind of
crazy. Yeah.
Like, it's just in a real way. Like, it's just because it doesn't make sense. It just, but it's like when you're meant to be here and you're meant to have a calling, you're meant to be able to do something like that. Like sometimes not even your own self can stop you.
Right.
Like, that's just like, and it's just, I know, it's, a lot of people who didn't get my opportunity to hear that voice. And so, I stand here and I have to represent them. And I have to represent, the families of people that I have lost loved ones in that same situation, because that's who my heart goes out for, because I got a chance that day and they didn't. So I'm obligated to do all that I can to give my heart and soul to this calling, because I've been given so many chances. You got to realize something, man. I got 22 failed suicide attempts, man. This is not, the bridge wasn't number one, like, you would think, after all that, it took me a long time to get my act together. Cause like I said, after I realized that photo was out there, I didn't want to be front page of the San Francisco Chronicle for the worst day of my life. I didn't want my world to be exposed like that, because I spent my whole life. You got to realize something. I was a life of the party, man. I was a popular guy. people knew me as Jovial Kev. Like, you know, I was the problem solver. I was people's go-to guy. Like, you know, when you wanted to party cracking, you put me on the flyer. Like, I'm you know, bring the people. Like, you know, I'm gonna get the party started.
You're
like,
fun.
You know,
You're the fun
very
guy.
popular. Like everybody, nobody ever saw me have a bad day. Nobody ever saw me have a bad moment. Nobody ever saw me upset. It was just, I was great at just giving people exactly what they needed to see from me. Like, you know, I was a chameleon. So I'm a chameleon. So it's easy. And I always wanted people to, you know, to shy away from how I really felt. So I just learned how to just be a certain way. And that got exhausting. So, but I learned how to do it. Now I didn't know how to go. Who was I going to be? If I spent my whole life building up this image that I had it all together, and all I kept telling myself is, who goes to the bridge? Like, think about it. You know, in my brain, where I was at, you know, nobody, you know, hell no, man. Nobody goes to the bridge. Like, I couldn't get over that. It's like, what is wrong with me? I never could accept it. So I lied about it for 8 years. I didn't go to outpatient. I didn't go to therapy. You think somebody needs to be on some heavy, extensive medication after that? For 8 years, brother, nothing. No therapy, no outpatient. No. I went through, you know, a divorce during that time, which rocked me. I went through child custody, which rocked me. You know, another, you know, probably another 10, I had 9 more attempts after the bridge. You know, by 2013, I was up to 22 failed suicide attempts. Oh, that's why I say, man, my life, when people tell me that they've been through, that they can't see it getting any better, and I want to remind them, let me hear your life. Let me hear your story, because I can guarantee you that no matter what you've been through, like I'm telling you, I'm not just saying it from just because I'm just telling you who's going to get better. No, I'm telling you from experience. If it got better for me, who's undeserving, who tried everything to die outside of a gun, because I couldn't get my hands on one. Right. Like, you know, I've done it all. Like, you know, and I just couldn't I'm still here. And if it got better for me, it can get better for anybody. In 2013, that same Officer Briggs, who, you know, my mom wrote him a letter in 2005, said, thank you for being Kevin's guardian. You know, he held on to that letter all these for 8 years. And the AFSP, which is American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, you know, they're one of the biggest nonprofits for suicide prevention in America. They honor, you know, a lifesaver every year in New York. And in 2013, it was, you know, they was honoring Sergeant Briggs, and they was trying to figure out somebody to present him the award. So they was thinking about either you know, somebody who he could talk to, because I didn't know who this guy was. I didn't know he was famous for talking people down, you know, from the bridge and being there for them in their time of need. So they was trying to look for somebody he talked down, or a parent. And they thought about my mom because he thought about, you know, they thought about my mom because he mentioned the letter. So they reached out to my mom, and my mom, you know, she, you know, she's, you know, had a stroke and been dealing with some things. So she's not traveling. And she knew that I would never dealing with that day. So she kind of convinced me without convincing me that, hey, go to New York. You know, it's a you know, a free trip. You know, she really didn't kind of tell me what it is, because I don't ask questions. Right. She was banking on me. This is how I am, man. This is how I operate. The world is going to be how the world's going to be. Whatever I'm needed of in the world, I just do my part, man. I don't ask. When you reached out to me, I asked you no questions.
You said, set it up. Send me the
link.
Set it up.
Because there's no point of it's gonna, let's eliminate all the, it's gonna happen. So let's just, I don't like the questions, man. My brain doesn't tolerate questions. Like, I like answering questions, but I don't like asking them, because I gotta think too much about, I'm a critical thinker, and it ain't me. So she was just banking on me being who I am. Don't ask no questions, just show up in New York. That's exactly what I did. I got out there. Didn't even know really what I was out there for. Got out there, tuxedo, did all that, you know, fitted, did all that, still didn't ask any questions. They paying for everything. Why would I ask any questions? Nobody could ask me to pull out no money. So why am I asking any questions, right? So I get out there, and I remember the radio station left me a message saying, you know, they want to talk to me. I'm thinking, all right, and now I got to tell them I'm not my mom. And they said, when I got on the phone, the guy was more excited to hear from me than I've ever been. Like, he was more excited. I've never had somebody that excited to say my name. He was like, Kevin Berthia, oh my God. Oh man, we're so excited to interview you about your 8-year reunion with your first responder. And I'm like, let me call you right back. Just give me a second. Let me figure it out. I call my mom. I say, Mom, what am I in New York for?
What the hell, Mom?
You're out there. And she said, oh, you're gonna meet the man in the photo. Just like that. You're gonna meet the man in the photo.
And you knew a photo.
Mom, you could have told me, you know, She was like, oh no, it'll be all right. So I was like, okay, mom. So now I'm stuck. So I get on the radio. They interview me live on the air. This is my first time ever talking about the day. This is the first time ever. My first time ever talking about myself was on the bridge with Briggs for 92 minutes. This is my second time ever in life on the radio, live on the radio, talking about this day.
8 years later.
No dead airtime. They're like, oh, you're so phenomenal interview. Oh my God, have you done this before? And all this other stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, no, like, whatever. So I get over to the Columbus Circle in New York, and this, we get out this jazz centers decked out. It's all nice and beautiful. And we get there for the cocktail hour and I'm all dadded up and I'm meeting Briggs for the first time. And I remember when I shook his hand, I didn't know how I was going to feel because now I know I'm going to meet this guy. I don't know if he's going to want me to, bow at him. I mean, because technically he did save my life. But it was one of the most genuine handshakes I've ever had in my life. It was like two old high school buddies who haven't seen each other in 20 years. It was just like, I knew as soon as I shook his hand, it was just like, oh man, I knew how and why he saved me. I knew it had to be him. It wasn't about his first responder training. It wasn't about anything he, accomplished in his life. It's the fact that he was human that day. And that's what I needed. I needed a human just to treat me like a human. And that's what he did. And we, I got on that stage. I remember, getting in there and I remember looking up at the crowd, it's about 300, 400 people in here. I've never been in a situation like this. We all dressed up, I could tell it's some, it's rich people in here. It's some really important people in here. And I remember Briggs get up and the Yahoo documentary goes up and the picture of me goes up on the jumbo screen. And I remember the whole crowd goes, you know how they go, that gasp. And I didn't know what they were looking at because I'm facing the crowd and the thing is behind me. So I turned around and looked at it and I saw it was me on the screen. It's the third time that I'm seeing this photo.
Wow.
First time I saw the photo was my mom showed me and I got out of the hospital 14 days. The second time I saw it was when my ex used against me in court in a custody battle. That's the second time I saw it. The third time I'm seeing it, third time's a charm. It's the third time I looked at it. I turned around and looked at it and I accepted that it was me in the photo. Before I got on stage, I didn't know how powerful that was going to be. I got on stage and I talked openly about everything that brought me to the bridge that day, March 11, 2005 was the first time I'm talking openly in front of a crowd. Like I've never talked about nothing serious in my life, I've never did public speaking. I ain't never talked in a room before. I ain't never, let alone talked about myself. After I came off that stage, it was a line starting to form and it was a lady in line. And I remember, she was clearly distraught. She was been crying and stuff. And I'm an empathetic person. I'm like, oh man, this is my first time. I never done this. Now I've talked to thousands of mothers year to date so far, but this is the first mother I'm talking to. And she came up to me and she said that, she said, I want you to look at me. You got to look at me. You got to talk because I'm talking to you. I need you to look me in my eyes. She said that I haven't slept in 5 years. And that crushed me. I didn't know what she was going to say, man. I ain't never heard nobody say nothing like that. And that crushed me because I think about that. And she said, I haven't slept in 5 years. She said that my son, Jacob, lost his battle 5 years ago. But she said, I'm going to sleep tonight, Kevin. And the reason why I'm going to be able to sleep tonight is because of you. Now I can better understand what Jacob was going through. And it's a moment in your life. In 50 years, I'll go back to that moment and say, it's the moment my life was changed.
Right. That was it.
It's the moment that it just, I can't have if I can go back and say one moment that changed my life, it's that one. Because I couldn't understand how the worst day of my life can give anybody hope. Right. I couldn't fathom the idea of the worst day of my life giving anybody hope. Like I couldn't, like what?
Yeah.
But I knew two things happened. It was just like, I realized I wasn't alone. Right. And I realized it was so much bigger than me. Like it was so much bigger than me. And I knew I wanted to do so much better with my life. And I always say that's the New York Kevin. California Kevin was ready to die. He was ready to, call it quits. He had tired of being everything who he was. He was in a dead-end relationship. He was lying about who he was, with friends that he shouldn't be around. Everything had to change. And that was May of 2013. May 21st, 2013, I woke up and it was the first day I didn't want to die my whole life. May 21st, 2013. I had been alive 11,019 days. And I always turn them numbers around and I say, that was my day 911.
Wow.
That was the day I finally woke up and I didn't want to die. Like I did. And it was just like, whatever I did to get this feeling, I never want to lose it again. And so I I had to make real decisions. You know, I had to change family, I had to change jobs, I had to change environment, I had to change friends. People want to say they want changes, but until you really need to make the real changes in life, you can't expect your life to really make the real full surface change until you make the change. Like I had to eliminate everything that caused me pain or everything that was going to cause me, you know, from being grateful, because I woke up that morning and it was all I could feel was gratefulness, you know, and I changed my name. That's why most people know me as Grateful, because it was just, that's all I could feel. It was just, all I heard was grateful. The song kept playing in my ear. It was just, all I could feel was just great. I was grateful to be alive. It was just like I finally got it. It wasn't about everything that I've been through. It was the fact that I was alive to go through it.
Wow.
Like, it's not about what we go through. It's the fact that we're alive to go through it, man. Like, we get so fixated on the pain and not realizing that somebody's not here and they wish they could be here to go through their pain. Like, we're here to go, like, you know, and yeah, I know it's hard and days get tough, but you deserve to see it get better. And I've been handling that. So I literally, you know, went from wanting to die to helping people who want to die in the same calendar year. Like, I went from, you know, and I said to myself, I remember I put it on the wall. I said, I just want to help people. 2 weeks later, I was inside of People magazine. Like, I can't tell you how my life had changed. Like, it went from People magazine, and I went to Steve Harvey Show, and then, you know, Nightly News with Brian Williams when I was in, and CNN, and it's just all these big names. All this stuff just happened.
Right.
It was just all about me accepting just this is who I am. It doesn't define who I am. Yeah, the worst day of my life cannot define who I am, because it gives people hope. It gives people understanding that, yeah, on your worst day, you can build off that and create your best day.
Right.
And so, you know, now I travel around. I've been able to, man, I've been blessed, man. I've been able to travel around. Literally, I've been to 44 or 45 different states over the last, you know, 6 years. I've been to South Korea. I've been to Alaska. And I don't get up there with a PowerPoint, man. I get up there and I just tell the story. That's it.
Right. Yep.
That's it. It's nothing. It's just that I give me the mic, small introduction, and let's rock it. Like, that's all I do. And I'm able to just reach people on a whole nother level, because I am real. I'm in it. And I always tell people, when they Google my name, they think that I'm out of it. I'm in it. I'm in it now. I'm still in it. I stay in it. I'm assigned to it.
Right.
You know, you want to know my assignment? My assignment is to be at Hell's Gate and to pull people that who happen to go in there, and to stop people who happen to think that that's the best place for them. Right. Like, that's just, you know, I've lived in that dark place for so many years that I'm so experienced in having why people go there, why they stay there, the effects of how to get them out of there and how to stay out of there. So why not use that to help people who are in this dark place? Because that's all it is. You know, it's a dark place. You know, it's a place that doesn't have love, because we're not designed. We haven't been designed as humans to deposit self-love. There's no books growing up that tell us how to love ourselves. So when we grow up, we it's all about what we do for other people.
Right.
So when we get overwhelmed and we haven't deposited enough self-love inside of ourselves, then we depend on other people. And then when the world lets us down, we get overwhelmed, not realizing that the world is dealing with the same thing that we're dealing with. That's why it's important to deposit your own. You have to have deposits inside of yourself.
Right.
It can't come from your wife. It can't come from your mom. It can't come from your dad. It can't come from coworkers. It can't come from drugs. It can't come from sex. It can't come from nothing. It has to come from really emotionally you. You have to deposit inside yourself. And that's what I had to learn, like, and that's what keeps me above float, is those self deposits.
How does one do that? Because you actually answered a question I had for you, because I was always curious of a lot of people that you see commit suicide are people that you would never think would commit suicide. I'm not even talking about famous people. I had a couple years ago, a good friend of mine I grew up with, he hung himself, and he was like Diesel, the big like he was like the fucking
you know why
craziest
it's always
person.
A surprise when people when we always say, oh, I didn't see it coming.
Yeah,
it's because we as society, we put labels on people based on what they show, and then we get this idea of who they are, and they have to keep up with that image based on what they show. He's this personified guy who's you know, always he showed that, but who was he really?
Right.
That's the difference. Like in his dark, in his when all the lights are off and the women aren't around and the friends aren't around and the party's not around, that's who he really is.
Right.
Like, and the problem is we have a person who we show society and we have a person of who we really are. And sometimes we can't interchange and deal with the pain when we get stuck in a dark moment and just have to deal with who we really are. And you know, that's why, you know, a lot of these celebrities or a lot of these people we know, they go off by themselves. They're not doing it around people. It's an alone thing because we you know, we know you got our perception of us, you know, so it's hard to keep up with that perception. Like, and for me, I see them when I look at pictures. See, I can see stuff that people can't see because I can look beyond your smile. Like I can look beyond everything that you try to represent because I was the king at it. Like we are so used to people, and we got to pay attention to people's routine. The one thing that will always tell you if somebody's off is their routine, because we all have one. You don't even realize it. You bathe the same. You brush your teeth the same. You comb your hair the same. When you put on clothes, it's the same way. You just don't realize it because your brain is not gonna say, "Hey, pay attention to how you're putting your shoes on," because you do it the same way. You're not, you know, you might change it now because I'm telling you, but you when you put your shoes on, it's left or right. It's right or left. It's people that put on the right first, people that put on the left first, people that and when our routine changes, that's the one thing that we have to identify. You can't go off my physical face. Right. You can't go off smiles because that's what anybody that's smiling, we never look at them and be like, you know what? Nah, you really are sad. Because that's what we're trained to think. When the mind sees a smile, we're trained to think happiness. When a mind sees sad frown, we're trained to think sadness. Right. That's just how the brain operates. Like, you know, you're never gonna look at somebody that's sad and be like, no, they're really happy. Right. That's just how it is. Yeah.
Right. No, that's
like you take it for face value. And so I think that because we know that, and because the individual who's in that dark place knows that, it's like, well, I just got to show face value. And that's why you got to look beyond and show the routine never shows face value because your routine is off. Your routine is off. How you normally get up and do this. Or I know that, well, you know what? I noticed that, you know, you normally got your Starbucks, but today you don't. Or you normally do this, but today you don't. Or you normally have your glasses on, but today you don't. Or I see you normally cut your hair, but you don't really have your hair cut. Or it's the little things that we overlook that really, really are big things. We're all a bunch of a million small things to make up one who we are. And we don't see that. Like it's a million things that make you who you are today. Right. It's not just one thing, it's a million things. So we have to concentrate on the things, the component things that make you are. It's some root things that make you who you are. And those are the things that can't be changed. Those are things that when they do change, we have to look out for. Right. Like nobody ever just got up one day and just said, you know what? That's it. I'm going to kill myself. No, you got to pull back to 6 months, pull back to 6 weeks, pull back to 6 days, pull back to 6 hours. Like, and see where it happened. It ain't just, nobody just wakes up and says, that's it. No, people battle for years secretly, quietly. And then finally at one point get overwhelmed and just enough is enough. Right. Like, you know, but once it's in their face and they can't take it, you know, it's just, they couldn't get out of that dark moment. Like it's nobody ever wants to die, man. Like, I don't care what nobody says. Like everybody will always say that and say, well, no, nobody ever wants to die, you know, but the option of living is just too overwhelming. Right. That's what people don't realize. It's not about dying. It's about if living has to feel like this, right? Then what does death feel like?
So it's not about dying. It's about not wanting to live anymore.
It's about not wanting to live in this much pain. Right. And you've exhausted all options. They always say, that's why I don't understand when people say, you know, that person was selfish. Like, you know, and you got to realize when people say selfish, you got to think about, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to think about the worst day of your life. And after you think about the worst day of your life, I want you to imagine that that's going to replay for the rest of your life. Right. That is like, people don't get it. And when they don't get it, they're so quick to judge. I can never judge no individual on the face of this planet. Why? Because everybody has a why. Right. Everybody has a why. The man you see walking down the street talking to himself out loud that smells like that whatever, and that nobody wants to listen to him. I listen to him. Why? Because he has a why. Because he has a why. It's a reason why he doesn't want to be like that. Nobody wants to be out of their right mind.
Right.
Nobody. Because we're not designed to be like that. But we get there and then we don't know our way back. And then we get blamed. We get the people that none of us are in our right mind, but the people who go farther away from out of their right mind, we get the finger pointed by people who it's like, it's like, it doesn't make any sense. Like nobody's in their right mind.
Right.
Like we all have a hint of bipolar. Like that's just, I don't care whether you want to identify it, whether you want to diagnose it, because that's just how it is. We're human. Like we have our mood swings, we have our moments, we have our, a mental illness is going to enhance it. Yeah, trauma is going to enhance it, but we all have a little bit of,
yeah,
all right,
for sure. Yeah.
But we don't want to, we don't want to admit it. Everybody wants to be perfect. Everybody wants to be normal when there is no normal.
Right.
The people that said the world normal wasn't normal. Like it is a word that's used that should never be used to define people.
Right.
Like, you define like weather, or something like or I mean just people, components of people that have a million things that make them up. How can we ever be normal?
True.
Like, like when you think about all the stuff it takes to open our eyes, you think that our hearts beat the way they do, the things that are the thoughts that rain through our, how are we normal?
No, yeah, it's crazy when you think of it, when you bring it back like that, and you're like, wait a minute, what the hell?
There's nothing about a human being that's normal. Like when you think about the fastest, the way that we can heal, the way that we can think, the way that we like look at the buildings that we have outside and knowing that they're man-made. How are we normal?
Right.
Bridges that are being built.
I know.
How are we normal? So what are we trying to be? Like, what are we really trying to be? That's all, that I just don't get it.
Yeah. No, that's a good insight. And I believe you're right. Like everybody has a why, like how whether it's like you said, like the crazy man walking down the street. I did air quotes for everyone listening. That does smell that, I myself walk past people like that too. I'm guilty of that as well. And not saying everybody's got to go start talking to people like that, but that, that's a completely different perspective that I think a lot of people don't look at,
Yeah. It's just, man. And I think that, and I don't fault for people. The world got to be the way the world is. And I get that. But I've fought myself for years of trying to fit into a world when I've always been different. I've always had the idea of, I was 12 years old and talked to a man with no arms and no legs on the Chicago Bridge. And I had one of the most impactful conversations of my life, And it's just because I've always been a people person. I've always been designed to see people for who they are. If I have an issue with a person, it has nothing to do with their race, their cut, like what they can do for me, what they can't do for me. It's just all about who they are as a person.
Right.
Like, it ain't got nothing, and I give everybody a chance because I know, all right, if you're mean or if you're that way, you have a why too.
Right.
So it gives me even more like the people that will quote unquote people they say that would hate me because of who I am. I have more compassion for those people. Like I have more love for those people that would hate me because I'm more of understanding of their why.
Right.
That's just how it is, man.
Yeah, no, it's
like,
true.
If you're racist against me because I'm black, I'm sad for you because I can understand how you can hate me without getting to know me when I love you.
Right.
Like
regardless.
Genuinely love you.
Yep.
Like in a real way, I genuinely love you. Like, how can you hate me and you don't even know me when I pray for humanity every day? I do the same prayer every day. I pray for those that are lost and I hope they get found, and those that are found, I hope they draw closer. Like it's the same prayer that covers humanity.
Right.
Like, because it's either we are lost and need to be found, or we are found and need to draw closer. That's it. That is how humanity is split up. And I'm sorry, that's just the way I look at it.
Wow. That's so positive, man. That's like, when all the world's so negative, man. The fact that you have that mindset. What blows my mind with you though is I thought you were gonna say the second they pulled me up, or the second that the 93rd minute, like I thought you were gonna say that's when I realized like, no, I'm important. I need to live. And then when you said 8, that's fucking crazy.
It took me 8, like literally March 11th, 2005 to May 7th, 2013.
Wow.
That's when I arrived in New York.
And that
like it took me,
wow.
and it clicked. Once I got out there, it clicked. You know, I think I had to get out of my situation that I was in.
Right.
I had to come, like, something, when you get out of this element, I got out of my routine, because I got into a routine out there. You know, I was in the same routine. I knew every day was gonna suck. You know, you get into the routine, you wake up, like, I gotta wake up. And that's another thing. How you go to bed, how you go to sleep. Like, this is, you know, I'm telling you, man, like, this is the freest game I can give the world.
All right.
How you go to bed, how you go to sleep. And here's why. This is probably most people's problems. When you wake up in Tuesday with Monday's issues, Monday's gone, right? I've canceled Monday. I've processed Monday. I can't do anything about Monday. But because I haven't got everything I wanted to do on Monday, I'm carrying that to Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Tuesday has its own set of problems. It's a new day. It's at its own set of strength that's needed. But I'm carrying weight from Monday to Tuesday. Now, what if I wake up Wednesday and I do the same thing Wednesday that I did on Tuesday? Now I'm carrying Monday, Tuesday into Wednesday along with Wednesday. Now, if I do that Thursday, I got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Imagine if I do it Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday, Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now, if I wake up Monday, now I'm equally doubled that pain. Now, imagine if I do that for 20 years.
Wow. Just stacking up.
We don't see that.
No.
We don't look at it like that. Like, whenever the day is in, I'm learning. That's it. Whatever I couldn't accomplish that day, that's it. Because tomorrow has its own other, you know, and we worry about days that don't exist. I am the king of trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do Thursday and Tuesday? Like, it's a day that hasn't
even happened yet.
It doesn't exist. It ain't not that it hasn't it doesn't exist.
True.
Like, there is no, like, we can see it on the calendar, but we cannot physically see it.
Right. Wow.
So anything could happen. And I had to learn that. And this is for me too, because I get ahead of it. Like, you know, I'm preaching to myself. Like, I'm not just like, oh, I got all the answers. No, I'm listening too, because when I speak, I get the opportunity to hear myself too, because I'm not just giving it for myself. I'm hearing myself. I'm getting the opportunity to pour out what's inside of me. And I just know how you go to bed. How do you do that? You got to change your routines. We all do something right before we go to bed. That's just what we do.
Right.
It's how we go to bed. So you got to change that routine. It's in our routine. How we go to bed affects how we wake up. If we can change how we go to bed, it changes how we wake up. And that's where we start. You know,
that makes so much sense.
Every human on the face of this planet should watch the movie Inside Out.
The animated
2015 Pixar. The greatest movie ever invented in life. And here's why. It explains what we all have, the emotions in our brain that we all have.
Right.
You will look at that movie. People have seen it. And now when you think about it, when you say, well, let me put my life in Joy's life. Right. Let me put my life in the perspectives. Let me think about my life as I watch this movie.
Right.
And you'll get it. We need all these emotions that we try to run from. We need anger. We need disgust. We need sadness. We need joy, but they have to balance out each other, and we need all of them to work together on one accord in order for us to be the best one. We can't have, you know, that's why when people are too happy, you know, they end up being depressed, because you're not giving sadness a little bit. Right. You know, when people are too angry, they end up being depressed because you're not getting happiness, or, you know, you're not giving the emotions. You got to let the emotions, when you're dealing with something, you know, if you're dealing with something, if you want to cry, cry. You're not going to cry forever. But when you stop yourself from crying, you know, too many times, then when you do cry, you're overwhelmed.
Right.
You know, you see the guy at the supermarket, and we see the situation. We go in the grocery store, and you see the guy accidentally hit somebody with a cart or something. And that other person, they just fly
go
off.
Crazy. Yeah.
Is it really about the cart?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But we don't realize it. We're triggered. We live in a world full of triggers, and we don't identify them inside of ourselves. We have to know who we are in order to know our triggers.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes total sense. I mean, even crying too. It's funny you say that, because sometimes I'll see something, like when I watched your video, like I started to cry, cry a little bit, but it wasn't like, I wasn't like bawling and like overwhelmed. And it was because I know myself, and I know increments, like when I handle myself like that, it's not going to just be built up to this one large emotion. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. not existing day. That's kind of crazy. That's kind of almost like the living in the moment, like a true, like live in the moment, because it's literally not even.
It's not here.
That's
I'm
crazy.
just now, man. Listen, I'm just now at 40. I'm a habit, man. I'm 39. At 40, like the more I'm hounding this. So at 40, I'm a have it, man.
Right.
I'm gonna have it because I'm tired of making mistakes, not because I'm listening. It's like, you know, and then I fall back. It's just like, nah, this is how it like non-existent. It's a non-existent, like today it's a day. You know, and we're in control of it's 5:28 here. I'm in control of 5:28 and maybe 5:29. That's it.
Right.
Like, you know,
yeah.
Everything else doesn't exist.
Right. No, that's true. And it's like the I was gonna ask you about the you said about like giving yourself kind of like those pep talks, right? Like how does someone find that pep talk? You know what I mean?
I think you gotta find yourself. Like you know what you need more than anybody else can get. Like we depend on people to pull out stuff that we can pull out of ourselves.
Right.
Like we do, and people are there, and people can help us, guide us, but nobody's gonna know you better than you know yourself, and you can't expect nobody else to. Right. You got to know what you need in these moments, because in these moments, you all you got.
Right.
You know, when you go into these, you know, overwhelming places, you all you got. So you have to know yourself in order to know what you need. If you don't know yourself, then you're not gonna know what you need, and you're not gonna be able to get help from people, because you're not gonna be able to communicate what you need, not only to yourself but to people.
Right. That's great advice, man. That's fucking, man. I'm so glad you answered the fact of like, because like, well, we're talking about people that are always happy, that are always, you know, the life of the party, that are always this and that. It's hard to like, you know, not see them in that way. Like, for example, I was talking about my buddy. He this is crazy. So on his Facebook page, he was posting some like outlandish stuff about him, like, man, this is it, like, and literally no one was like, hey, like, let's talk, because he was just like a jokester.
They so used to him his image of being a certain way, so they don't even know how to approach him the other side of what they're used to,
like who he really is.
But that's who he really is. You know, it's just because in that moment he got into a dark place and he couldn't find his way out of it. And it wasn't nobody around. It wasn't, like I say, it wasn't the image. It wasn't about, you know, this or that, you know, like I say, you know, and it's just high profile people. It go from the people at the lowest to the people at the top, at the highest.
Robin Williams,
alone is alone. Like, alone is alone. That dark place, when you get in there, that's it. You know, that is it. And it's nobody in there but you. Oh,
man. That's crazy. That's like you were talking about, like when you woke up that day, that you just didn't have it in you to give you that pep talk.
And I knew, and that's what scared me, because I was so used to always having it in me, but I just didn't have, I didn't deposit enough in myself to have enough for myself at that moment when I needed myself the most. And that's all it is. That's why you have to deposit in yourself, because it's going to come a time where you're going to need yourself the most. You're going to need yourself the most. And you got to depend on those deposits you've put in over the months and years. And that when you get to that super dark place, it's like, okay, when I am in there, I have enough joy. I have enough, you know, of happiness. I have enough of these key components that when I'm in that dark place, that I can find my way through, and that joy of light will help me shine myself, you know. And that's just how I look at it, you know. But if you don't have that, you're going to go in there and it's just going to be disgust, anger, and sadness. Wow. And those are the components you're dealing with.
Yep. That's as far as, so let's talk about not detective, but Officer Briggs, right?
Yeah.
So obviously I'm assuming you guys have a fantastic relationship and you're
absolutely
your friends. That the comment you made about when you shook his hand and it was like, that's when you realized like it wasn't his training, it was him. Like, you know, that's incredible to me. Because, you know, you would think, oh yeah, he has all this training, that he just knows how to talk to people. Well, no, that's just the person that he is, and that's what you need.
It's him. It's just him. It ain't got nothing to do with, I mean, all that stuff is good, because, you know, it's going to be needed at some point in his life. He's going to need FBI training and all that stuff at some point in negotiation, but not that day. That day, he just needed to be, he didn't need to be Sergeant Kevin Briggs. He just needed to be Kevin.
Right.
That's it. He just needed to be Kevin, who's endured, who had testicular cancer at 18. He needed to be Kevin who lost his mom, and that's the Kevin I needed. Right. Like I didn't need Sergeant Briggs who's been California Highway Patrol. I didn't need that Kevin. And so that's the difference.
Right.
And he knew, but he's not that way. He's always just that Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just who he is as a human. And I had to learn that now that I've been around him all these years.
I was gonna say,
he's always just.
It's not a show. Man. That's just who he is.
He's just, he just happened. He is the reason why I looked at law enforcement. Like he is the sole reason why I look at law enforcement, able to look at them and understand that they just people, and that they just have that's just their job. Because before that, it was just like cops. I ain't fooling with no cops. Cops. Yep. Now it's like, no, they're just law enforcement. That's just their job. And then I've done, I've done so much thing with, law enforcement. I've talked to CHP. I've talked to all kind of, all these agencies, FBI, all these different agencies in this law enforcement, jails. I mean, I've done. It's ironic, black man from California. Like this is my life now. Right. I didn't rode. I'm probably one of the first to ride and get a tour of cities from the front seat of the police car. It's just and actually get to be in the front and drive around in cruisers and ring the siren and stuff. I mean, this is my life now. I mean, it's crazy. Ironic, but that's just the way it is.
Right. Is it? And like so for people that don't know who he is, he's famously known for doing what he did with you in 2005. He's known as
the guardian of the Golden Gate Bridge. He's reportedly saved over 200 people. And he's like I said, he was able to retire 2014, I believe 2015, and now he travels around and we travel together and he tells his side of the story about his life and personal experiences and how he got into the highway patrol and how he encountered what he went to encounter from the individuals. A couple stories about the couple individuals that he encountered, and if we get together, then you get to hear both sides of our story of how we met that day, and it's awesome. I mean, just get the opportunity to share.
No, it is awesome, and it's kind of like it's interesting because he's the guardian of the Golden Gate Bridge, but it's like but you didn't even know that though. That's the thing that's great about it is like you didn't even know that was him.
No, that's not like he nothing showed to do with it. I was like, oh, the guardian of the Golden Gate Bridge, I'm saved. Right. Like, no, my head stayed down, my eyes stayed closed the whole time. I didn't know, we could have did this a million times over again. I still would have I never would have opened my eyes. Right. And if I did, the conversation, like I said, the conversation would have been different.
Wow.
Like, incredible. Because I never in a million years would have told or had a conversation with a cop.
Right.
I'm just
especially not that kind of
100% honest. Not in the situation I was in. Definitely that would have never happened.
Right. Wow.
So
that's crazy. Could you see him up there? Like, could you see him if you did look up? Right.
If I did look up, I could see him.
Wow.
If I would have to look up, but my head stayed down the whole time. He's above me. I'm below him because I'm on this 4-inch beam that goes around, the pole, and it's just, and he's above me. So literally, he's kind of talking down to me.
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture right now. It blows my mind every time I see it. That is just
it's real life, man.
It's real, and it's crazy because like you can peel back that onion and go back to all these moments, and it's like like 22 failed attempt suicide. Like it's just in this one, I mean, you had attempts after that, and it's like you're still here. It's like I'm so glad that you were able to have that moment in New York with that woman. That's incredible, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's life changing because if that wasn't going to change me, nothing was.
Right.
Nothing was, then it just, I was never going to get it. And I had to have that moment. I had to have that night. I had to have it, and Briggs told my mom before I left, he said, Kevin's not going to know it, but this night is going to all be about him. And it literally, was. It was about, me, and literally everything changed that day. And it's just, this is where I'm at because of it.
I love that. That's amazing. Well, I'm gonna ask you, one or two more questions. I'll let you get out of here. But can you tell me like something that you would tell parents that just like we talked about in the beginning, like having that, communication? What's something that you tell parents to kind of look out for or talk to, or just to approach
You gotta
things
have
different.
it. You gotta first and foremost, you gotta be you can't be afraid to have open dialogue with your kids. They first of all, they're yours. You got they're yours. That's the first, like, get rid of the big like uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable. They your kids. Like I can see if it was somebody else's kid. Like this, they come from you. Right. So everything of who they are is coming and stemming from who you are. So you should know how to reach your kids, and you got to ask the necessary questions. Don't just ask them how's your day, was doing, and they just say fine. They go in their room and live their life. No. You stop. How was your day? What made your day good? Well, what how could it have gotten better? What made your day bad? Ask the necessary questions. Find out what's going on in their brain. Engage with them. Meet them where they're at. Get involved in what they're doing. Like, talk to them. Like, you got to go beyond just letting them play video games and letting them be on social media. Right. Because, you can't, they're going to see things. Have the questions. Is everything, hey, hey, I just want to let you know, we can talk about anything, I'm just, it doesn't have to be weird. It doesn't have to be, you know your child, what not to say. Like we get so uncomfortable and get so worried about what not to say. Okay, we know the things not to say. Now figure out what to say. Like, right. Like, yeah. They're your kids. Like nobody can help you figure out your kids better than you. Like and take the pressure off yourself. Like, dude, like, hey, like, like my son Carter, like, dude, he is me. Like, so I'm like, okay, well, what is something I needed to be like, what would have worked for me? And that's all I do. Like, and I just, I change it for this generation, of course, because there's certain tweaks you got to make because the generation has changed, but it's the same, he is who I was, at 8, when I was 8. It's just that, he's probably 10 times smarter. So now I'm able to talk, which is easier because I'm able to have better conversations with him than my parents was able to have with me.
Right.
Because he's exposed, because TikTok's around, because all these things around, and they're going to see it anyway. Why not have the conversation and you able to dictate exactly what they think rather than them learn about it and in their kid brain trying to figure out exactly what it is.
Right.
It's like, no, have the conversations, tell them, sit down and talk about mental health. Tell them, it's okay if you don't feel, if you feel sad about yourself. It's okay, if you're different, it's okay to be unique. All these conversations have to be talked about. You can't expect, these conversations not to be talked about and things to change. Like,
yeah, that's great advice. And I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't think of it like that. Like, they are your kids. So it's like, if anybody's going to be able to have that conversation, it's going to be
so,
you.
I listen to parents and they get so, and I say, wait, stop, relax. Listen, this is your baby.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to know. And even if they want me to talk to their kid, I always tell them, like, you got to figure out how to way to get me to fit, like, to get them to talk to me. Like, you have to break the code. Like, like once I'm in, but you got to figure out how to get me into them. Like, nobody knows them better than you.
Right.
Like, so you got to figure out how to meet them where they're at and figure out, you should know your kid more than, if they're around you every day. It's like, you should know the ins and outs as far as what to say and what not to say, as far as trying to reach them on a level to where you guys can have communication. You got to have communication with your kids.
Right.
Like, you got to take the time to talk.
Yeah, no, that's saying it that way though, man. They're your kids. That's kind of like an eye opener. I don't have kids yet, so yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Like, because it's funny, man. Because like my parents, like I said in the beginning, and I know your generation too, probably like we're kind of in the same generation, but like it's funny because it's like I know so much now that they didn't know back then that I'm never gonna do to my children. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna talk about mental health. I'm gonna talk about it's okay to cry.
And that's
like,
the thing we have to, and that's all I've ever said. We stay complacent. Things are supposed to change.
Right.
We cannot like, I can't raise my 8-year-old like I was raised. Like, no.
Exactly. Yeah.
I had to learn that. You know what? I tried to do that for years and it didn't work.
Right.
Because it's a different generation.
Yep.
It's a different generation. Like, they can't handle certain things. And so you got to tone it to where they're at and meet them where they're at, where the world is. Yep. You can't parent to how the world is. And see, that's why our healthcare is horrible. And we're missing people because we want to do the same things that we wrote in books 25 years ago.
Exactly.
We want to ask the same questions we were asked in 1990, in 2002. I mean, in 2020, in 22, after a pandemic, after all, life has changed. Like we should have changed every single book after the pandemic because it's told life. The world is not the same place.
True.
The world that we've known it to be for all those years is nothing close to how it is.
Right. And where it's going.
And where is it going?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's man, Kevin dropping bombs, boy.
I don't get enough opportunity to talk. Everybody always say, you better get your podcast. I don't know. I just got to get it off the ground.
You should get a podcast, man.
I talk, bro. I just don't. I got to get it all together.
Yeah. No, I feel you. We got to get this Zoom down first, and then we can move on.
Right.
Too.
And I'm not a tech guy, so I would have to have somebody. I would have to hire somebody. Be like,
hey, hit me up, man.
All day.
I'll help you out, man. Hit me up if you have any questions for sure. You have anything else you want to talk about?
I'm good, man. Whatever.
Where can people find you? On your
everywhere.
Website, all that stuff.
You can Google my name, Kevin Berthia. You can start there. And I always say that, it's about the message. It ain't got nothing to do with me. I want 300 million followers. Not from me, for my message.
Right.
So, and I made everything Kevin Berthia. So I'm on Instagram, Kevin Berthia Foundation, Facebook, Kevin Berthia, Facebook, Kevin Berthia Suicide Prevention Advocate page. That's up and coming. I got I'm on Twitter at Kevin Berthia, LinkedIn Kevin Berthia. Everything is Kevin Berthia. YouTube Kevin Berthia, because for so many years I wasn't Kevin Berthia. So it's not like I'm like making like, oh, why did you make everything Kevin Berthia? Like the foundation, I have my foundation, Kevin Berthia Foundation. It has nothing to do with me wanting to make things about me. It's about, for years I wasn't me. Wow. So now I made everything me. So it gives me the idea like, no, this is who you are. You got to pour into this part, like, this is who you are. So now that's why everything is Kevin Berthia across all social media platforms.
That's awesome.
TikTok, Kevin Berthia.
Are you on TikTok?
I'm everywhere. Snapchat, Kevin Berthia.
All right. I'm gonna follow you on TikTok because this is definitely gonna be on TikTok.
Okay, cool. I just started learning how to do TikTok. So I finally got my first video that did more than 200 views.
Nice.
Now I got like 11,000 views on one of my videos. So I didn't learn how to pin it. So yay! And now when I got to TikTok, I was like, if I can just get 50 followers and 1,000 likes, I'd be happy.
Yeah, that's it.
So I'm at like 400 some followers and 4,000 likes. So I have over exceeded.
You killed it. Yeah, that's great.
Exactly of my expectations. So I'm happy with that.
That's awesome.
But I'm everywhere. Like,
watch the hashtags on TikTok.
Yeah.
Like suicide prevention. I stopped at 24,000 followers, 10 million views. And they stopped me on my podcast because I was using stuff like that. I'm like, bro, I'm just telling I'm letting people talk about this shit.
You can't, you can't put certain things you can't put. They are very, very
killer. When I talk to homicide detectives and I gotta put killer on the text, I'll put K and then I'll put an explanation for the I. And they don't read it as killer. So it like passes, but it's like it's fucked up. You gotta do all this crazy shit just to like just spread your like messages to people.
It is. They don't want, man, because they want this illusion that everybody's so in this illusion ball of happiness. It's like, bro, no, come on.
It's not.
Let's deal with reality.
The everything that you mentioned will be in the description below of this video or in the audio description. Absolutely. But Kevin, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yep. I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely, man. That was another episode for the E4 Explicit podcast, and we'll see you next time.